Hello everyone, welcome to our show Persona, where our participants are going to be one among the famous personalities and they're going to talk about their ideas which shaped human history. Today we have with us Vishal, who is Ravi Zach, Vedanth Vayuvegala, who is Deepak Chopra, and Charan, who is Christopher Hitchens. So, over to them.
Good morning, guys. This is Vedanth. I am speaking on the behalf on the ideas of Deepak Chopra. Now, see, I am a logical theist, and I believe that logic alone can define religion. And I'm a religious person. See, today, any religion, it's not only Hinduism, it can be Christianity, it can be Islam, it can be Sikhism, it can be Buddhism. The religion is being defaced and defamed by self-proclaimed gurus and saints. So, for example, take the case of Nityananda or the running case of Mother Teresa, where fraudulent people in the hype, in the sheer amount of people coming to them, or the official vindicate or indicate given by the religions that these are gurus, that these you can follow these people. The religion itself is becoming corrupted.
Well, coming to my perspective, what Vedant said, it might have some of a bit of truth in that, but then end of the day, you just cannot come to conclusions based on some minor negations here and there of some sort. But what I think is that, in my perspective, is just that every worldview will have some of the bad apples in their sect or whatever that thing is. But then you cannot come to conclusions, and you cannot conclude, and you cannot interlink those conclusions to to their respective worldviews. So what coming to Christianity, as Vedant made a point that reason has religion has lost reasoning, but that is not entirely true, as for my knowledge. When it comes to the factor of faith has nothing to do with belief in God in Christianity in particular, because faith comes after reason. The Bible specifically talks about reason. You have to provide reasons, and you have to go with the reasons in order to believe in a particular worldview. So coming to the argument, yes, of course we have different counter perspectives regarding the Christian faith and the Mother Teresa's argument and stuff like that. So there have been many instances where some of our people have tainted the faith due to some their behavioral status, or else the way they portrayed themselves. But end of the day, what I feel is that, in my perspective, it doesn't reflect the precepts of the religion. So people in the Christian fold themselves will have contradictions, minor differences, not contradictions but differences, and in those differences these problems are arising. So you cannot just interlink these differences and the behavioral pattern of these some of the people in the Christian worldview to directly to the Christian worldview at large. So that is what I think.
So we have these two people saying this is this new type of a defense mechanism these religious people have got on themselves. I mean, you see, they say whoever does bad things, I'm a Christian, I'm a Hindu. There are people, he's a Christian, he's a Hindu, he's a Muslim. So what these people do is, like, a Christian did something bad, they say it's not religion, it's he doing it. Okay, we agree to that. But then today the question is, like, I'm questioning the books, not the people. People are fickle. They are fickle minded. They are fragile. It's not about them. It's not about a Muslim. It's about Islam. It's not about a Christian. It's about Christianity. It's not about a Hindu. It's about a Hinduism. It's about Hinduism. You see, the question is, like, we are not fighting against people. We are fighting against the ideologies they got. We are fighting against the thought itself. The thought could be God, or the thought could be some holy book. Today, you see, even I have read books. So mm, I think I'm equipped to talk on them. So you see, the question with religion is not about if the God is existing. The question is like, even if he is existing, why should you have to respect him? I mean, what did he do? Like, you need to respect him just because your life is good. Of course, it's based on your hard work. Just because your life is good and you are thanking him on the day, on the night, on the afternoon, whenever you do something, you thank him like for the success you have got. I mean, what about a poor guy, a 3-year-old child dying, starving on roads in somewhere in Africa? What about his life? You are thanking God just because you have a good life. What about him? What about millions of people throughout this history who have died starving? There are many women who were born in these brothel houses and they died there. You see this optimism thing, this God will help you. These words, they are really good when you are really good, but then people who suffer, they can't really understand those terms. I mean, what are you talking? A guy born with cerebral palsy or something, that brain thing. You say like he tries, and then he's everything becomes good for him. No, right? It's definitely not perfect. He's not having a perfect life. Why did God give him that life? I mean, like, is he testing him? Like, what kind of test are you doing? This is like a mother. She's like a child is born, and she puts him in a confined room for 10 years. And if the guy, if he still loves his mother, he still praises his mother. Thank you, mom. Thank you, mom. He says every day, thank you, mom. Thank you, mom. And then after 10 years, she'll give him the best life anyone could enjoy. You see, that's what this heaven and materialistic earth life is. For 100 years, you have to suffer, but then you have to praise the Lord. After 100 years, you die, you go to heaven. Lord is happy that you praised him all these 100 years, even though you were going through hell. He grants you heaven. I don't really, you see, it's not about the arrogance I got, or it's not about that logic, reasoning, not all those things. It's about the empathy that which we humans have got. I don't see that in God. I mean, I don't say he has to become a Superman. He has to help every second a woman being raped or everything. He just can take the bad away, right? There comes the choice again. When he's giving choice, then he doesn't have a choice to punish people who choose to do bad things, because he's just unleashing a beast. I mean, we have good people, bad people, people acting upon circumstances. So he can't judge everyone because people are made like that. So if you bring the God topic into this, you have to blame him for this creation. Definitely, I would do that. I'm doing that. Thank you.
Okay, that's a fantastic lengthy speech, but I think your discussion rests on 3 points. First, you're not negating the existence of God. You're saying God exists, but why should I respect him? Point 1. Second point is that you're saying that we humans have empathy, and the God, I don't see empathy in God. The third point which you're saying, and which is absolutely idiotic, is, in my opinion, again, we have all men of reason here. You're saying that, I mean, you're talking about countering ideas, where yourself, the idea of nihilism or anarchism, whatever this idea belongs to, that itself is an idea. And when you're countering ideas, you should see the ideas the root took from. So I'll start by answering yours. And another thing, you're saying, why at all should the millions of people suffer? Why at all a cerebral palsy or a woman born in a brothel house die? We humans have empathy. I support that. But let's take away God. Let's take away God from the equation for 1 second. I believe that what you sow, and so you should reap. The system of karma. So today you go and murder a person. Tomorrow he's in jail. And it so happens that the person who's in jail has a daughter and a wife who are on the roads because this person is in jail. They're begging. That daughter is taken to a brothel house and she's raped and she's prostituted. The woman is shot dead. So, wouldn't you think that the chain reaction, the man murdering, set off the whole chain of events? Second point, the karma philosophy not only believes in the actions of one individual and the reactions he gets, but also the influences of environment, of the parents. You say it's cerebral palsy. Who knows what triggered that? Now, when you say that smoking must not be done during pregnancy, and you're saying that now when the child is born with some problem, and say, "Ayo, the God has not gifted me." So why are you blaming God? God has nothing to do. It's your actions. That's the first point. The second point, God, we humans have empathy.
It's the third point.
No, humans have empathy is the second point. You said humans have empathy, and you don't see that in God. Fantastic. But you think empathy rules over reason? Do you think any day emotion can come over logic? You're trying to view God as a very minor creature, one with emotion who can immediately help people. And you did say that I don't want God running at every small trouble. But then there is a grander scheme of things. There's a word, a phrase which I believe in calls them greater good. And greater good is all that runs the world. Thank you.
Okay, well, yeah, coming to my opinion, I humbly disagree with every bit of what Charan spoke. And coming to Vedanth, I partially agree with him, but that too on certain basis. So, coming to Charan's argument, so he said, if there would be a God, and why would I want to respect him? And he brought in the aspect of suffering, and concluded. So that's how he concluded. And I mean, if there is suffering, and he dislodged God. And coming to Vedanth as well, he said, of course, suffering is a part of our lives, but we have to take out God of the equation. So what I would like to, just navigate this argument in a way which lodges God in the paradigm. God should be there in the paradigm. When we talk about evil and suffering, it's illogical when you take out God out of the paradigm. I'll explain. See, I being a Christian, I strongly believe that God is the creator of everything. So everything. So it's not that evil is something which is created. So it's a simple argument. Most of you guys have might also know this argument. So the famous argument which Albert Einstein said, there is nothing called darkness, in reality. In metaphysical world, there is nothing called darkness. Darkness is something which is the absence of light. So in the same terminology, in the same terms and same philosophy, God exists and evil exists as a reality. So when we are talking about evil as existing in reality, we are claiming that evil exists just because in the absence of God. God is absent, that is where evil exists. So it's not that you have to dislodge God. So coming to the argument, see, if we go by deductive reasoning, so we need to deduce to a certain particular point. So coming to the deductive reasoning, if we deduce that God is the supreme being, and how can he allow suffering in this world? So that is a very simple argument. So if we take God being the creator, I don't know what worldview you belong to, but then if God is the creator and he is there and he is the giver of everything, there is a moral framework. You are claiming that there exists evil, and you are also claiming that there exists some good. Because you are claiming that there's something evil, you are also claiming that there's something good. So when you are claiming that there's something called good, you need a moral framework with which to differentiate between good and evil. There is a moral framework with which you are able to differentiate between what is good and what is evil. So there is a moral framework. So if you dislodge God from the argument, that there is no God, so there is no moral lawgiver, so there is no moral law, there is no essential good, and there is no essential evil. So what basically this deductive reasoning argument concludes is that if you don't have essential good, you don't have a moral law with which to differentiate that good from evil. So if you don't have a moral law giver, you don't have a moral law, and if you don't have a moral law, you don't have essential good, which dislodges that we don't have essential evil. So this logical inflow, the flow, lodges God and not dislodges God. So that is the first thing I want to, again this is my perspective, so you can have your counter perspectives as well. And coming to one of the examples which Vedanth explained, how the karmic law, the principle, whatever that is, you pay. So I have one problem with that, because when you believe a worldview, a worldview must be logically consistent. What do I mean by that? It shouldn't have self-contradictory statements or whatever, self-contradictory principles or notions or whatever. So when you say that you believe in a worldview, in a certain worldview, that certain worldview should be logically consistent. As Vedanth already said that he's a logical theist, so he should be knowing that logically consistent is the main component of getting into the truth. So you have the truth must be logically consistent. What do I mean by that? You shouldn't have self-contradictory statements. So coming to the law of karmic karma, and the basic principle is that you pay, and you pay in the next life, and you pay in the next life, and it becomes a cycle of paying debts and debts. You pay the debt in this life, what you had been debted in the previous life, and you pay the debt in the next life. So I mean, it's so illogical to me, personally, is that you keep on paying, and you end up in a circular reasoning. You just pay, you live, you again rebirth, and you pay. So if that was the process, we wouldn't have arrived at this particular time, because there is no beginning, and it's very illogical to say that we have arrived at this moment because we had a beginning. So it's that argument is particularly to me, it doesn't seem a good argument, and that is the reason the Christian worldview, I believe what I believe not by faith but by reason. Of course, as I have listed out in the first talk, so what basically drives me to believe Christianity is that we have reasons to believe that the Christian worldview is right. So, but let me give you a method to analyze the worldviews. As you can already see that nihilism, or whatever Charan has laid, he has established a worldview. All right, he has established a worldview, and coming to Vedanth, he has also established a worldview. So I'll not establish a worldview, but I'll give you the method of how to go about analyzing the worldview, whether it is right, whether it is true or not true. So basically, I'll go by the theory. It's called the 5-point theory. Okay, so you will have to excuse me with that. I'll just take few minutes. So we live in a postmodern era where we have immense number of worldviews. Let it be Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, scientific naturalism, nihilism, as Charan is arguing about. So how do we know which one is the truth? How do we come to a conclusion? How do we get to the truth, absolute, ultimate truth? So there's this theory which methodologically analyzes logically and gets to the truth. So ultimately, we are in search of the truth, ultimate truth. So how do we get into truth? So basically, what the 5-point theory basically states, that there are 5 disciplines that one worldview needs to answer. If you are claiming your worldview to be true, you need to answer those 5 disciplines. And what are those disciplines? So the first is the theology. Obviously, that is the study of God. Epistemology, how do you know things? And anthropology, the study of man. And metaphysics, how can we know that what is ultimately the reality? And ethics, what is right and what is wrong? So these are the 5 disciplines. And coming to the 4 questions, so this is the 5-point theory. So I'll be going with 5 disciplines and 4 questions. So these are the 4 questions that one need to answer, in order to claim exclusivity. So the four questions are follows: origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. I don't need to go in detail about these questions. And coming to the third point, there are three tests that you normally put for truth. So absolute truth, there are three tests. That is logical consistency, empirical adequacy, and experiential relevance. So basically what we are doing is that we are arriving at the absolute truth from a logical point of view, from a logical flow, that is called inductive reasoning. So we have done with the five disciplines, 4 questions, 3 tests, 2 theories. There are 2 broad theories in order to claim exclusivity. Those 2 theories will definitely take the correspondence theory and the coherence theory. The correspondence theory is that everything you speak should correspond to the truth and should be incoherent with the reality of the worldview that we are living in. And there we arrive at the ultimate truth. So this is the 5-point theory I want to establish. And I want to add a footnote to that. If you are claiming your worldview to be true, then through the logical inflow and the inductive reasoning, deductive, whatever reasoning, you need to answer these 5 disciplines, 4 questions. You have to undergo these 3 tests, 2 theories, and you have to arrive at the ultimate absolute truth. So that's how you know. That's how I was compelled by the Christianity, because Christian worldview is the only view which corresponds to reality and it is coherent to the world outside.
We really had a fun time listening to 2 kids saying he's a Superman and he's a Batman. But then the thing is, like, these 2 people, they argue just because they believe in something. They think their logic is above everything, but then people forget logic is limited to our perception, our knowledge, and our experience. So I wish they would accept that, at least not with everything I speak. So regarding their counter arguments, Vishal was saying one thing I really felt funny. I mean, Vedanth was saying in his argument, like, you have to pay, your life is not just because this life, God is not helping you. It's just because your previous your previous births thing. And then Vishal was countering it, according to his worldview, he thinks we all got one life, and then we go to hell or heaven for eternity. That's really cool to believe that. But then, you see, Bible says Adam and Eve did sin. They went against God, against the Lord, and then because of that, for thousands of generations, God punished humans. And then Jesus came to save us from our own sins. So you really think that this worldview is better than yours? Because you see here, it's like my great-grandfather, great-great-great-great-grandfather did something to someone's family, and then his great-great-great-grandson, he's still punishing my family, and he's still punishing me for that, and he will keep on continue, he'll continue to punish my son, his son, my grandson, his great-grandson. I don't really find that okay. Maybe you people, because of faith, you're okay with it, but then I'm not okay with God punishing you too for what Adam and Eve did. So it's like this guy saying, Vedanth saying that God gave us all perfect life, but then science says in every childbirth there is scope for 20% of child being born with what do you call, physically handicapped or something, that deformities, the genetic disorders and everything. So if you really think that we are all going to be born perfect with 2 hands, 2 legs, and God is sending us with a 6 feet height and beautiful blue eyes and everything, It's not, life is not that combo pack for everyone. We are really in a bad situation right from birth. So have to take that away. God is not really cool with giving chances. And that 100 births or something, the karma thing, you see, this probably this I can take that away with really simple logic. I mean, like 100 years ago, I guess there were some 5 billion people on earth, and their atmas, they like 5 billion people, they did something good, something bad. So but again, next generation, 5 billion people, that increases. Those 5 billion atmas should have the karma. They should have the everything they did in their previous lives. But then after 50 years, we got like 1 billion people extra. We got 6 billion people. In the sense, we got 1 billion more atmas, So where did these atmas get their ration card from? I mean, their happiness in life, or their their wisdom about looking at things. I mean, they didn't have previous life, right? These new 1 billion people, but then they are also having bad days. Not everyone is having a really what is it? It's a Christian grey. Not everyone is a billionaire who can get away with everything. So you have to think everything before just accepting, just because it is written in a book. And so what did they really speak that I can argue? They don't have anything. It's really childish. You think you can erase that away. And this thing, like the belief thing, keeping the Vedant logical theist away, like let's think he's a Hindu. Like he believes in Shiva, he believes in the Trinity, the Shiva, the Brahma, the Vishnu. Vishal, as he accepts, he's a Christian. He believes in one God and God's son, Jesus, and many prophets. Moses, many, Lut, many. Muhammad, they might not accept him, but then Muhammad says he is one among and last. So coming to the point, Vedant believes in God called Shiva, who had this, who married two women, who married one woman, but then again she got another life, and then Sati after Parvati, like twice he married the same woman just because she committed suicide. I don't know, many people have, most of us doesn't have that chance, but then God got that because he can have. So he the point is, like, Vedant believes in Vishnu or Shiva, who had wives, who had children, they had children and everything. Okay, the theology stops there. We don't know about the sons of Vinayaka. Leave it there. They had families. They were angry. Like Shiva was angry on Vinayaka. Vishnu was angry with some other guy. Vishal believes in a God who doesn't have anything. Like he is single. He doesn't have any sons or something. Jesus is a different thing. He was chosen to to help people. He is not that real son. That materialistic son. So biological son. So when a Hindu thinks about a God, when he experiences the spirituality, he's looking at someone like the Vishnu, who had a wife, Lakshmi. A Shiva is looking at a Shiva who had two wives, two children. And this guy Vishal is looking at a guy who is unmarried, who doesn't need to be married because he is Lord. So, I mean, is Lord okay with Vedant saying that he got married? And when he is praying, he has this idea of God, that 2 marriages, 4 kids, 5 kids, that is the God to him, and he is experiencing the spirituality through that idea, through that image. And Vishal is experiencing the same spirituality through that, where God doesn't have anything, any relation or anything, but he is angry, of course, because someone didn't pray him. So, I mean, what kind of logic is this? I mean, Is God okay with Hindu saying that he is married twice, thrice? Vishal, you can talk now. No. It's not. It's not right. It's not sidetrack. Just please explain me. Is Lord okay? No. It's not that. Is God okay with Hindu calling Lord the Shiva? Is the Lord? Is Lord okay with Hindu calling him the Shiva and marrying two women with two kids? Not okay. How is he experiencing spirituality the same you are experiencing?
Okay, what I think is that Charan is completely out of his mind because he is speaking of something else. I gave him the logical flow, deductive reasoning and all that stuff. I was talking logic to him and he ends up in marriage and Shiva and daughters and wives. I don't think that's a that's a logical fallacy actually, whatever you're saying, because I'm not okay with the spirituality aspect of Vedant's worldview. I'm drawn across the spirituality aspect of my worldview.
You think he is doomed? He's experiencing
I don't-
false spirituality.
That who am I to?
What do you
who
think,
am I to
Vedant?
judge him?
You can
Who
take the
am I
mic
to
from him.
judge?
First of all, I think for the first time I find a Christian more logical than a nihilist, and that's saying something. So it's in such a context, I like to say, reiterate my points, Vishal. Karma philosophy is not endless paying. You can end it as far if you said moral framework is necessary to maintain, to bring God into the paradigm, to quote your very words, and that the karma cycle ends as soon as you finish your karma. It states that you can merge into God. And as to answer Mr. Charan's question, I'm a logical theist, and both of them actually has refurbished that point quite wonderfully. I'm a logical theist and I have the guts to say that not forget Shiva, his wives and his granddaughters and grandsons. I will take away all 3 crores God out of the Hindu context, and I can still be a Hindu, because in Hindu philosophy you don't need to believe in one God, in one miracle, in one person thing. I can be an atheist, I can still be a Hindu. I can believe in nature and still be Hindu. I can be a man sitting under people tree and mating on myself, or a person serving poor people and deceased people out on the street and still be a Hindu. Because as far as to me, Hinduism is a consciousness. You call it singularity, you call it Yehovah, you call it whatever you want. You call it Jesus, you call it Allah, you call it Ganesh, you call it Guru, you call it anything. For me, Hinduism is consciousness. And so you can take away all the, and I can also go far as to say that whole Shiva, all Trinity, all 3 crores God are metaphor to teach our morals. And once you do that, you can take away all this context out of everything. And karma philosophy, as to reiterate both your points, it can be ended one point of time. It is not 100 years. You can go on and on and on. And I've said it is not only depends on you, one individual, but the whole parents, environment, and so on and so on. On to Vishal.
You say the karmic pursuit can be achieved, but on the contrary, there is something called reincarnation. So you believe that you are there here in this world as a human being. When you reincarnate, you are not paying your debt in this life, and you will become something else in the other life. So how will you pay if you become an insect in the other life? How will you pay your debt? So that is my question.
You have anything to say, Mr. Charan, one point. He's saying that 5 billion people existed at one point of time. Now they have become 9 billion. How at all did the 4 billion souls come from? So there's no soul splitting. We're not talking about Marvel Universe here. We're talking about, you have a very confused idea of souls as in giving one set amount of souls. But souls, according, if you have actually pursued, instead of going a nihilistic hard locking view, if you had pursued it, takes a little bit for probably turn 2-3 more pages, whatever book you are studying from, it would clearly stated that souls are not finite, but they're infinite souls, and it will come as soon as every person has one set. So if the 9 billion point, because your question can be answered by your own very question. If there is in cycle there is one point of time Kala Pralaya, so this let's assume 9.9 billion souls when the Kala Pralaya occurs. So there's 9.9 finite souls. So we actually don't know the exact number of souls which have been assigned to Earth to quote it in your own very fancy, fantastical terms. So that's the question. And to answer Vishal's question, what if you're insect? So that's the thing. First 2 points. First, you should make sure you're doing the moral framework following the moral framework so that you don't be born as insect. Even if you do be born as insect or a dog or a snake or a lizard or some non-human species, you can clearly, there are, science is hardly barely scratching the surface. Now they're saying we have souls to water. What about, we can easily confirm that this insects and other species have souls. And if we can't even think from their viewpoint. I'm not saying I know everything. I'm a logical theist. I can be at flaw. My religion can be at flaw. As far as I know, and this is rated by both science and Hinduism, that if they have a souls, they can also do a purpose. And so you have to make sure that you have to follow a moral framework before getting into such a sticky situation. And even if you do get into such a sticky situation, there are certain rules to follow.
Vedant believes in Kala Pralaya and everything, but then he says, Charan, if you really want, I am ready to forget that Shiva exists. I'm ready to forget Vishnu exists. If you want. But then I'll believe. But then if you want me to forget, I'll forget. And of course, you think Shiva doesn't exist. Thank you, Vedant.
Well,
And the thing is like, Vishal wants to speak something. Say.
yeah, coming to the same argument, please bear with us. So are you claiming that animals and insects and you, do they have a moral framework? I mean, what does your statement mean? It's just unambiguous. I mean, recursive.
I think I was quite singular in saying that my 2 points. First is that I'm not saying that the animals have a moral framework of their own. I'm saying they have a consciousness. And when this consciousness is called soul or whatever it stands for to that particular species, they have a rule of their own to follow. I mean, you as a human don't have, according to Charan, according to nihilistic philosophy which he follows, morality is something which is developed by humans, so it can be broken. Then a man can kill a man, a woman can rape a woman, it can go on and on and on. So there is a species, a kingdom rule, a mammalia rule, or whatever the family which they belong to, they have a rule to follow that. And see, I have already stated priorly, before stating this statement, that I do not know everything, as you both claim to be. And I also have said that my religion, my theology can be at fault. And Mr. Charan, general nihilistic twisting of words, I have not saying that I will believe in God, but if you say forget, I will forget. I have not said that. I have just said you can also take them to metaphors. It is your choice. You can not choose. You can choose not to follow. It's your choice. I am choosing to follow. Why at all are imposing on me? And one point which Vishal has told is that the karma philosophy, let's assume the karmic philosophy is trash, and go out in the Christian worldview. And I believe in the one Son of God who has come Savior and saved us. And I believe in Jesus Christ, and I am absolved of all my sins. One famous person called Noam Chomsky, he has said that there is hell in Christianity, but it's always empty. Because everybody believes in Jesus Christ, and suddenly everybody goes heaven. You go to church, you confess, all your sins are absolved, so you kill, let's go to church. There's this person who has built a $3 billion private chapel inside his house so that he can go and absolve of his sin. And where did he get the 3 billion? That's all the people to know.
My friend, that is not entirely true, because you cannot somebody made a statement and you just generalize that stuff. The Bible explicitly talks about hell, and Jesus himself spoke about hell. So it's the concept of hell is I agree with you that the concept of hell is, it's sort of not vague but shaded in the Christian worldview itself, because most of the Christians doesn't know about hell, and the one basic thing which the Bible talks about hell is that it is not a choice of God. Hell is not a choice of God. Biblically speaking, hell is a place which a man or a woman, they themselves choose. When they reject God, they end up in hell. It's not that God is there, God holds heaven and in his right hand and hell in his left hand. No. It's the choice of man. It's the choice of mankind to choose hell. When he's rejecting God, what basically he's doing is he's choosing hell. It's not that God sending them to hell. And coming to believing in Jesus, of course, Jesus is the bridge to heaven. You believe Jesus, and if you could, you would lose your salvation even if you believe Jesus. Why? Because, why am I making this point is that you believe Jesus, you'll never repent of your sins, and you'll never go back to your sinful nature. If you go back to to your sinful nature, you'll have the tendency to lose your salvation. That is the main essence. So it's not about God punishing people and sending into hell. It's man choosing to go into hell. So that is the differentiating factor between heaven and hell. So thank you.
They're deaf, they're blindfolded. I mean, I've been saying something which
That statement doesn't counter our arguments, Charan.
yeah, because I have countered and you people choose to ignore it. So
This is a classic case of when a person knows he has lost a reason and he's putting up, in his own words, childish debates, as Mr. Charan has so explicitly put forward. So I think I'd like to conclude this stream of discussion by saying that, from my point, my theology or religion or spirit or faith or whatever you want to call it, I think it caters to every person, his view. As I have previously said, you can believe in his service to humanity, empathy, connecting to the human mass, and you can see, you don't need to see God, you don't need just work, and I think you can still get moksha, because I think the purpose of religion is to attain moksha. It is not heaven or hell or the karmic thing, it attain moksha, which is, you call enlightenment, you call it consciousness, you call it whatever. That's the thing. So you can do that by serving humanity, you can do that by following one God, which is called Dvaitam. You can believe in multiple non-duality called Advaitam. You can believe in knowledge, you can just believe that I have self-faith and I can gain knowledge and called Jnana Yogam. So there are multiple paths. That's how I like to conclude, because every religion is unique, and I think most of them, at least irrespective of its founders, even if you assume that all of these religions are made up by people, some old wizened old men sitting together and writing these books, and let's actually think about that in larger perspective and say that this is all for the greater good, and for the greater good, as I said, is the end point. Thank you.
I'm really glad that this discussion has come to an end. Very healthy discussion. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Vishal, Vedanth, and Charan. Thank you so much for joining us today and being part of Persona. Final conclusion, I think religion is important, God is important, patriotism, nationalism, everything is important, as long as we keep this at our home and don't show it on others. Thank you.